So a little bit about the definition of sustainable forestry. We are defining it as managing our forests to meet the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs by practicing a land stewardship ethic which integrates the reforestation, managing, growing, nurturing, and harvesting of trees for useful products with the conservation of soil, air, and water quality, wildlife, and fish habitat, and aesthetics. Yes. A little bit about our forestry unit. It is very new. Our Forestry Act of the Bahamas was passed in 2010 and enacted in 2011. This established the forestry unit, appointed a director of forestry, and allows us to properly manage our forest reserves. Now, our forestry unit currently only has 2 people, my director and myself, which is why partnerships are extremely important. A little bit about our vision, mission, and mandate. The vision of the unit is to ensure the valuable natural resources of the Bahamas, forest resources that is, are managed in a sustained manner into perpetuity. The mission, guided by prudent policy and the provisions of the Forestry Act of 2010 and regulations, the forestry resources of the Bahamas will be sustainably managed as a viable, renewable natural resource for the benefit of the Bahamas. Mandate, to develop the forest resources of the Bahamas to their maximum potential by applying sound, scientific, and sustained yield forest management principles and concepts. This photo is from one of our trainings that we held, and you can see everyone with circles around their head assists us in some way. So that is my director there on the right. The lady next to him is one of the members of the Bahamas National Trust, and she does a lot of our GIS work for us. The person right here is our FAO consultant who's doing a lot of our training. I'll tell you a little bit about him a little bit more in the presentation. And of course, me, and one of our Bahamas National Trust park wardens, so I'll get to that right now. But essentially, the forestry unit provides technical assistance. We manage invasives. We set royalties for license fees, permits, lease fees. And we also prepare management plans every 5 years. And one of my favorite quotes when I think about sustainable development, sustainable forestry, and partnerships is this one by UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon, where he says that the international community has 5 imperatives with which to shape the future, the first and greatest being sustainable development. And of course, when you think about sustainable development, that is, of course, with respect to the built environment, and sustainable forestry, more so the natural environment. We have a partnership with the Food and Agriculture Organization. They've given us a tremendous amount of money to build technical capacity within the unit. And they are training us in terms of basic forest management practices. We're going in, we're taking an inventory of the forests. We are an archipelagic nation, so this poses a lot of challenges for us because the last forest inventory was done in 1986, and we have to update that. Back in the 70s, the pine resources of the Bahamas were severely exploited by a certain company, and only now the pine is starting to come back. Regeneration is taking place, so we need to go in there and manage it properly. So they're training us in basic forest management techniques, learning a lot about GIS and how to use that in the forestry industry. We're also trying to revitalize the timber industry. We need to go in there, we need to do some thinning. We need to, in some cases where the forest has just grown out of control, we would need to go in there and do a complete harvesting of that area so that we can regenerate it and have a more quality pine stock. The pine that we have in the Bahamas is Caribbean pine, Pinus caribe, variety bahamensis. And so with respect to this FAO project, it is a 2-year project. It will be wrapping up this September. Our FAO consultant has been on the ground doing a tremendous job, and we hope to continue that project. We hope to continue and build on the training that he has provided us thus far. We also have a great partnership with the Global Environment Facility, and we're set to start our land degradation project. We because Kristen always likes me to call the full name. So Pine Island, this is the Global Environment full-size project on Pine Islands, forest/mangrove innovation and integration for Grand Bahama, New Providence, Abaco, and Andros, which are our 4 Pine Islands. And back in March of 2013, the GEF approved funding for $2.8 million. The government will have to match that by a ratio of 2%, so they will be giving, not 2%, but 2-to-1 ratio, so the government will have to match that in providing $5.6 million. And this project is consistent with the Global Environment Facility Strategy 5 for sustainable forest management and focal area strategies for land degradation and biodiversity. It will adopt a multidisciplinary approach to the conservation of biodiversity and ecosystem services and further contribute to the linkages between ecosystems and human well-being. It has been identified as one of the highest priorities for the GEF and also the government of the Bahamas. It is a 4-year project, and we have various partners with respect to this project: the Bahamas Environment, Science and Technology Commission, the Department of Physical Planning, the Forestry Unit, and a couple others, and also a lot from the NGO community. 4 deliverables under this project are enhanced enabling environment in support of sustainable land management and sustainable forest management with integration of biodiversity into land use planning, increased targeted public awareness of the importance and benefits of sustainably managing forests and mangrove biodiversity, ecosystem services, and sustainable land management, improved management effectiveness of existing and new forest reserves, strengthen livelihoods of people dependent on the use of forest resources, increase use of sustainable land, agroforestry, forest management practices among coastal communities. The Bahamas National Trust is the premier NGO in the Bahamas, and they have lent us a great deal of support throughout our tenure as a forestry unit. Remember that slide I showed you where with the circle around the people's faces? So those 2 workers, the girl and the guy, they are a part of our Memorandum of Understanding with the Bahamas National Trust. The Bahamas National Trust was set up with the Bahamas National Trust Act of 1959. It established the trust as an entity that advises the government on areas for Let's start again. It established the Bahamas National Trust as the entity that advises the government on areas for preservation and conservation. It gives the trust the power to create bylaws to be in effect in the protected areas it established. So we have a Memorandum of Understanding with the Bahamas National Trust, and we also have a funding agreement. We are giving them $100,000 annually to allow their park wardens to serve as forest officers on islands where we do not have a presence, which is essentially all of the islands except New Providence. And we are also training their park wardens as a part of that FAO Technical Cooperation Project. We also have a partnership with one of our lessees. We've signed a 5-year lease agreement with Lindar Industries in the Bahamas. They are helping us thin out certain areas on one of our Pine Islands, Abaco. And those areas, firstly we went in there, we devised the management strategy for those areas because the areas had grown significantly. We have decided that the trees have grown to their full potential, and therefore some thinning is needed in that area. And Lindar Industry is a company that wants to produce high-end timber products, so they want to do some tongue and groove ceilings, some floor panelings, some side panelings, and so we created that agreement whereby they would help us thin out the forest, they would make some money, and the government would also generate some revenue from that project. So it's been a great project thus far. And other partners, once again, we have the Bahamas Environment, Science and Technology Commission, the Nature Conservancy, BREEF, Bahamas Reef Education and Environment Foundation, and various other NGOs within the Bahamas. Because we are a new unit, we need all the help that we can get. And one of the great things about partnerships is that it helps to enhance in areas where you are deficient. For example, with respect to invasives, our partnership with the FAO allowed us to bring over an entomologist last year that helped us look for the pine tortoise scale. It is a problem in the Turks and Caicos, so we wanted to make sure it had not gone to the Bahamas as yet, and we were able to determine that it is not in our pine forest as yet. And now we can go ahead and try to be proactive and devise a strategy in the event that it comes to the Bahamas. Thank you so much for your attention.